We're here at a 5G exhibition in Bangkok, Thailand. And we're going to see how 5G is affecting people in the real world, from smart hospitals to container shipping and global logistics around the world. So stay tuned and come with us. Let's discover. So 5G is transforming multiple industries and sectors. And we have a company here, Sason, which develops turnkey solutions on top of Huawei 5G infrastructure. And what Sason do is they do a turnkey solution that provides automated manufacturing, automated warehousing, and one of the things that we're going to focus on now is automated seaports for shipping containers. So previously, port operations were very manual. You had people driving the cranes, you had people driving the trucks. But now with these automated systems, everything is done by AI and automated vehicles. So the cranes no longer have drivers, the trucks moving the containers around the port don't have drivers. And this not only means the ports become very much more efficient, but they can run 24/7, which means the throughput of those ports can be increased significantly. And currently, this has been implemented in many ports in China as well as Singapore. And China has 7 out of 10 of the world's most efficient ports. Something that I've noticed while we're walking around and that I find really interesting is from this here. You look at the uptake of users across 5G networks, and Asia is by far in the lead of other countries. You now have 580 million users in Asia, and Europe's down here at 46 million. And I think that is really down to the fact that Asian countries have embraced 5G, in my opinion, much more than Western countries have. And it's almost like they kind of follow in the lead of China. China had a massive rollout of 5G. Their infrastructure's all in place, and they're now moving on to the next level where they're implementing 5G in business and commerce. And I don't see that happening in the West. And just to give you a couple of sort of examples of this, we were recently home in the UK, and my parents live about 10 kilometers out of a major city centre, and I was absolutely appalled by the poor speeds of data I got there. And then we've landed here in Thailand. Now Thailand is viewed by many Westerners as a country that's still underdeveloped, and not only are the speeds here great, but the cost of data here is significantly cheaper than back in the UK. And to give you an example, we've got 6 months of data, 60 gigabytes a month for £35, and that's probably around what it would cost you for 1 month in the UK. So it's significantly cheaper here, and that may be, one of the contributing factors to the much larger uptake here in Asia, because the price is so much cheaper. So we've just seen how 5G and AI can disrupt the logistics industry and make massive improvements there. We're now going to explore a completely different sector altogether, which is the healthcare industry. So when they dispatch a paramedic to the scene of an accident in an ambulance, that paramedic can now be equipped with some live streaming glasses. And so a specialist back at the hospital can actually see what the paramedic is seeing. So we can actually offer diagnosis on the patient in real time. And what they also do, they use IoT devices, which are little devices which are kind of sensors, and they send back relevant information to the specialist or doctor back at the hospital as well through the 5G network. So that could be his heart rate, his blood sugar levels, any kind of vital statistic, his oxygen levels and things like that. And that, together with the view of the patient, allows the specialist or the physician or doctor at the hospital to guide the paramedic into giving a better treatment to the patient. And that can have a a big effect. There's something called the golden hour, where if you give the patient the right treatment in the first hour after a trauma, that patient will stand a much higher chance of survival. So that's a really positive thing. So many countries around the world are experiencing an aging population, and this is going to be a problem to healthcare as more and more older people will need access to healthcare. And they're addressing this in Thailand by the use of AI and 5G. So previously, where they've know from the data that old people will generally visit hospital much more often. So what they're doing, they're rolling out an application that will allow old people to take their vital statistics at home, things like heart rate, blood pressure, blood sugar, etc., etc. Then this will be transmitted. They can input the results on an app. This will be then transmitted to the hospital and analysed by AI, and it will flag up to a physician if there's any problems or abnormalities, and if there are, those patients can then be invited into the hospital or through the app given recommendations on their diet. They even include diet, so the old people can take pictures into the app of what they eat, and it will analyze this against a database so it knows the calorie intake and carbohydrates and things like that in the meal. And they can then give recommendations to the older people that maybe do a little bit more walking, eat a little less, eat a little more, etc., etc. And they're hoping by doing this that it will actually reduce the amount of visits those old people make to the hospital, and in turn that will ease the hospital's resources. Now, the third thing I want to talk about here is the use of 5G and AI in pathology. Now, historically, if you take something like prostate cancer, they would take a test, and a pathologist would have to look at each and every slide to make a diagnosis on that slide. And that would have to be done under a microscope in a hospital. Now, what they're doing with AI, they're now scanning these slides, digitally scanning the slides and comparing them in a database using AI. Now, although the AI currently can't make a final diagnosis, what it does is it flags a slide to be looked at closer. So what then happens is a pathologist will then look at that slide a little closer and make his diagnosis of whether that's a positive or a negative. But furthermore, previously all the pathologists had to be present in the hospital. But now what they can do, they have many pathologists who work from home. So those slides can be transmitted by 5G in high definition pictures and images to the pathologist's iPad at home, or if he's sitting on the beach on vacation or wherever, and he can review those slides on his iPad or his mobile device and then give a diagnosis which is then fed back into the system, and then that can be fed back to the patient. So all this is like, I mean, there's ongoing things like that. It could save, traffic in the cities because these people can now work from home instead of having to go to the hospital every day. It can speed up diagnosis because if a pathologist had, say, 500 slides, he can maybe get through one every 10 minutes, whereas AI can probably do 500 in a matter of a few seconds and pick out like maybe 10 that need further looking at. So now instead of looking at 500 slides, the pathologist only has to look at maybe 10. So there's massive efficiency savings. It can deliver a better healthcare to the end patient, and that is the goal of this digitization of the healthcare system. So I've really enjoyed myself here at Mobile Broadband Forum here in Bangkok. I've learned a lot of new things about how 5G is empowering industry as well as many other sectors. I hope you enjoyed that small insight I gave you into how 5G is changing the world around us. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Look out on the channel for many more like this. But for as always, for now, take care.